Everything you are seeing is not truly the world, but the way your consciousness reflects itself through the images of matter. When an event happens, you think it comes from the outside, but in fact the field is only responding to the frequency you emit. Every thought, every emotion, every subtle vibration within your body creates its own energetic map, and the field reads it with an unimaginable level of precision. When you are angry, the space around you contracts. When you are afraid, possibilities fade away. When you trust, probabilities begin to open like doors. Nothing is random. Every phenomenon is your own reflection arranged in the form of experience. If you have ever felt that life keeps repeating the same patterns, it is not fate, but the repetition of the signal you have not yet changed. The field does not judge, it only mirrors. It does not reward or punish, it only responds. Therefore, the issue is not in reality, but in the frequency you are maintaining within your awareness. When you understand that, everything changes. You no longer see life as someone being controlled, but as someone communicating with a living, reflective mechanism. The field always remembers you. Every smallest vibration of yours is recorded like data in light. When you wake up in the morning, the field knows whether you are anxious or peaceful. When you speak a word, the field records the degree of truthfulness within that sound. When you love, the field expands to connect all events resonating with that frequency. And when you doubt, the field does not punish you. It simply brings experiences that reflect the exact level of doubt you transmit. Therefore, reality is not a pre-recorded film. It is the most honest mirror of consciousness. You are looking at yourself in the form of the world. Every person you meet, every situation, every feeling is a subtle feedback of awareness being reflected back. When you realize this, you begin to see another layer of life operating beneath what the eyes can see, a dimension of light and frequency intertwining to create the image of what is called life. Each time you become still, you can hear the soft vibration of the field, as if the universe is breathing with you. In that stillness, the boundaries between subject and world blur. You no longer see yourself at the center, but as part of a vast flow. When you become aware that everything has consciousness, trees, air, even the light on the wall are responding to you, you stop behaving like an isolated being in reality. You begin to speak to the field through the way you feel. When you are grateful, it responds with expansion. When you resist, it responds with contraction. When you relax, it responds with the rhythm of natural transformation. This requires no belief, only awareness. Awareness is the language the field understands best. Each time you become conscious of what you are thinking, what you are feeling, you have already begun to tune your transmitted waves. When you look at an object without attaching meaning, that object returns to its true energetic essence, neutral, pure, and infinitely reflective. When you see the world without the lens of memory, you begin to perceive the field in its most original state, silent, yet full of information. Reality does not need you to believe, it only needs you to see. See with presence, not with thought. See with feeling, not with definition. See with unity, not with analysis. Then something strange happens. What once made you fearful begins to dissolve, not because it disappears, but because you stop viewing it from the perspective of separation. You begin to see the intelligence within every event, to see how everything unfolds with precise rhythm, as if the field is guiding you back to the center. You do not need to beg the field to grant you anything, because the field neither gives nor takes, it only shines and reflects. When you change your inner state, the image in the mirror changes. Everything in your life has long been waiting for you to realize this. The truth is, the field never leaves you for even a second. It is the living memory of the universe, the stream of information that stores every version of you, waiting for you to come into resonance to unlock it. When you are still, you remember. When you remember, you return. And when you return, reality begins to shift to welcome you as a natural reflection of light, recognizing itself. No one truly sees the world. People only see their own reflection through the world. When you look at others, at situations, at events, what you are seeing is not them, but the part of your energy being mirrored back. The field functions as an infinite mirror, completely impartial, without emotion, only responding precisely to the frequency you emit in the present moment. If there is fear within you, you will see the cause of that fear in another person's face. If there is love within you, everything around you begins to shine with that same frequency. This mirror does not lie, it does not hide, and it has no intention of punishing you. It simply reflects, honestly, the transparency of your consciousness. The clearer it is, the sharper the image, the more chaotic it is, the more distorted the image becomes. When you complain that the world is unfair, the mirror is only showing you the unresolved anger within yourself. When you feel lonely, it is not because no one sees you, but because you have temporarily stopped seeing yourself in the light of the field. Everything, no matter how small, carries within it the ability to reflect. The light passing through the morning window, the drop of water on a leaf, the gaze of a stranger on the street, all are reflecting you. Nothing in your life is meaningless. Only the degree to which you recognize the message the field is sending through each reflection. When you begin to live with this awareness, the world is no longer a place to be controlled, but a mirror teaching you about yourself. Each time you become angry, the mirror darkens. Each time you are grateful, the mirror brightens. Each time you stop judging, the mirror's surface becomes still and clear, enough for you to see that your very presence is creating the image before you. The truth is, you have never lived in the world. You have always lived in the field of reflection of consciousness. The world does not come from the outside. It arises from within your awareness, like an image rising from the surface of a mirror. Everything you think, no matter how small, is recorded by the field and returned in tangible form. This is not magic, but the natural quantum mechanism of observation. Where there is attention, there is formation. When you look through love, the form of things becomes soft. When you look through fear, the world becomes sharp and closed. The field does not choose for you. It only amplifies the energy you emit. Therefore, whenever you see life reacting intensely, do not ask why. Look instead at the frequency you are sending out. Every suffering is feedback, not punishment. Every miracle is feedback, not privilege. The same mechanism, two outcomes depending on the sender. And this mirror does not only reflect images, it also reflects time. When you are in fear, you see the past repeating. When you are in awareness, you see the future opening. Every experience, every memory, every possibility lies within that reflective structure. Reality has no fixed form. It is like water vibrating with each of your breaths. When you maintain inner stillness, the water surface becomes calm and the image you see becomes so real, it feels as if the field is breathing with you. The more you resist what you do not want to see, the stronger it reflects. When you try to erase an emotion, the field reads it as an amplified signal. Because it does not distinguish between negative or positive, it only recognizes the intensity of the energy. The more you resist, the more you reinforce the image in the mirror. Only when you stop reacting and observe does the field begin to dissolve into you and the reflection becomes transparent. Many people think they have to conquer the world, but in truth, they only need to learn how to see themselves in everything. When you see yourself in light, you return to the center of the field, where energy is no longer divided into observer and observed. There, every image is you, every movement is your rhythm, every event is a message sent from your own consciousness being reflected. When you live with this awareness, every action becomes sacred. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you think are all waves spreading across the great mirror of reality. You no longer ask what the field will bring. You ask what you are sending out. When you love without demanding, the mirror glows brilliantly. When you are grateful without purpose, the field opens up probabilities never seen before. When you are silent, yet still feeling, you begin to see subtle lines of light moving through space, as if the field is smiling at you. Synchronicity is no longer a surprise, but the natural language of the field responding to your clarity. And then you realize the most important thing: the mirror only reflects truthfully when you dare to look directly. As long as you pretend, the image remains distorted. As long as you fear, the image remains blurred. But when you are absolutely honest with yourself, without avoidance, without concealment, the light instantly stabilizes. The field does not need you to be perfect. It only needs you to be real. Truth creates coherence, and coherence is the frequency the field understands best. When you are in coherence, reality needs no time to adjust. It responds almost instantly. What you think of, the corresponding person or situation immediately appears. Not because you command it, but because there is no longer contradiction in your signal. When intention and belief become one, the field reads it as a complete wave and reflects it immediately. This is the essence of quantum creation, not changing the world, but refining the clarity of the mirror. Each time you see an unwanted image, do not hate it, because it is helping you see the misaligned wave that needs adjustment. When you understand this, no one is against you, no circumstance is an enemy. Everything is silently cooperating with you to help you become more transparent. The field does not care whether you are happy or sad. It only cares about the honesty of the energy you emit. When you accept your whole self, including the shadow, the light begins to balance itself. You do not need to eliminate fear, only to see it without being drawn into it. You do not need to drive away pain, only to recognize that it too is a signal of light being adjusted. The mirror of awareness never breaks. It only becomes clear or blurred depending on how you observe. When you learn to see everything as reflection, nothing can frighten you. You understand that the field is always on your side, always responding with absolute precision. And when you stand before the mirror with calmness, you will see what others do not. That reality has never been against you. It has only been illuminating you so that you remember who you truly are. There is a point that human awareness must reach, where every concept of self begins to crack. Not because something is wrong, but because the old structure is no longer enough to contain the growing light within you. You feel an invisible movement, as if something is looking through your eyes, silent, alert, without judgment. That is not intuition. It is the very primal awareness within you awakening. When the observer begins to awaken, the world no longer operates as it used to. Everything once thought to be certain becomes fluid. Time loses its linear nature, and events seem to unfold according to the order of frequency rather than schedule. You begin to see clearly that nothing comes to you from outside. Things only appear as the field reflects the signal you are emitting. When unawakened, you live in reaction, believing the world defines you, that happiness, sorrow, success, and failure are the results of circumstance. But when awareness separates from the cycle of reaction, you see that you are not swept within the flow. You are the still point watching the current. And from that still point, the true power of creation begins. The observer does not try to change the world. They see so deeply that the world changes shape on its own. Because when a frequency is fully seen, it cannot maintain its old structure. Attention itself is energy, and energy always reflects back to its source. Each time you look at something with transparent awareness, you are sending it a quantum command that it can change. Not through effort, but through the frequency of clarity. The field always reads that signal and restructures reality to reflect the new understanding. When you look at fear without avoidance, fear dissolves, because its energy has been absorbed into awareness. When you look at a painful memory without judgment, it stops controlling you because the field no longer has to reflect it back in the form of circumstance. This is the true mechanism of liberation, not through erasing, but through seeing through. Everything that is truly seen begins to dissolve into light. When you live in this state, you realize that the observing part of you is never hurt. The body can ache, the mind can be tangled, but the one witnessing it all remains still, luminous, untouched. This is the deeper layer of consciousness that humans rarely reach because they are lost in the noise of thought. But when you are still long enough, you see that silence is not frightening. It is the space that holds all possibilities. Within stillness, energy begins to reorganize itself. When the observer rises, every form of control begins to collapse. You no longer need to force yourself to be positive, no need to pretend peace, no need to conquer emotions, because each time you observe an emotion without trying to fix it, you are giving it permission to return to its natural energetic state, and energy knows how to return to balance on its own. When you stop resisting, you do not lose power. You open the way for the field to function correctly. That is why the more awake a person is, the more natural their life becomes. Everything flows in perfect direction without effort. You do not do less, but you act with clarity. Every action becomes precise. Every word carries the frequency of the center, and the result no longer drifts from the original intention. Because intention and awareness have united, the field can only reflect that coherence. The observer no longer chases signs because they are the sign. When you become the observer, everything begins to revolve around you, not because you are important, but because you have become the center of the field. All energy moves around the center, and that center is the conscious awareness that sees without interference. When you look at others from this level, you no longer see them through the reflection of ego. You see them as frequencies trying to remember themselves, and when you look with that light, others begin to awaken as well. The gaze of the observer carries no intention to convince. It carries the information of freedom. Each time you are fully present, you create space for others to feel the presence within themselves. This is how energy spreads. No reasoning, no doctrine, only transparency. The field always responds to transparency with higher order. When you truly are the observer, you no longer seek to avoid darkness. You walk into it with the light of awareness. Darkness does not resist light. It only waits to be seen. Every part you once hated, denied, or feared to face is only a frequency of energy not yet seen by this light. When it is seen, it is released. When it is released, you feel a lightness you have never known. Not lightness because the problem disappears, but because the observer is no longer identified with it. You are no longer the story, you are the space in which the story unfolds. And in that space, there is no conflict, no right or wrong, only the natural movement of energy. This is the point where the observer becomes the field. When you reach that unity, you no longer divide inside and outside. You understand they are the same current. Each time you change how you see, the world changes. Not by will, but by the quantum law of reflection. Every form of life becomes a living mirror, reflecting you in every detail. When you see chaos, look within, because the field is only amplifying what you have not yet recognized. When you see peace, know that you are resonating with the frequency of the source. There is no randomness, only perfect precision of feedback. The awakened observer no longer asks why this is happening. They ask what this is teaching me. Every experience is a signal sent to help you recalibrate your frequency back to center. When you understand this, life is no longer a maze, but a perfect reflective system of consciousness, self-adjusting. The more awake you are, the simpler everything becomes. No more fragmentation of thought, only the flow of awareness. And from that flow, You begin to live without fear. You know that everything you see is yourself in another form. No one is against you, nothing can harm you, only the field inviting you back to the still point of the observer. When you live in this state, everything within you becomes as calm as water after a storm. From that calmness, energy radiates, creating an effect that others call miracles. But miracles do not come from action, they come from presence. When the observer truly awakens, light no longer shines from the eyes, it shines from the whole of awareness. That light does not shine upon the world, it merges with it, and in that moment you no longer seek to understand the field because you have become it. There are moments that seem small but carry the weight of a wordless language. You think of someone and they appear. A number repeats itself everywhere you look. A song plays just when your mind wants to hear something. These coincidences are not random but signals. The field does not communicate through words. It communicates through synchronicity. When your frequency changes, the field responds by arranging events so that you realize you are being observed. That signal does not come from outside, but is the direct feedback of the frequency you are transmitting. The more aware you become, the more subtle and clear the signals are, as if the universe is speaking in the very language of your emotions. Every sequence of events, every encounter, every incident carries an energetic code, and only when you are still enough can you hear it. The field is never silent, only your mind is too noisy. When you stop, when attention becomes transparent, the signal begins to appear in forms you cannot mistake. It can be a light shining on an object that makes you pause for a few seconds. It can be the words of a stranger spoken exactly when you need to hear them. It is not coincidence, it is the natural reflection of consciousness being read and answered by the field. Every signal is a greeting, a way for the field to say that you are on the right path. If you have ever felt that life becomes too precise, as if everything is being arranged meticulously to remind you of something, know that you are entering the synchronistic stage of awareness. At this level, everything you think, say, or feel is reflected almost instantly. It is a sign that the communication between you and the field has fully opened. Delay disappears, reality begins to respond directly to you. This is the most important moment because whatever you hold in your awareness will multiply very quickly. If you are afraid, fearful situations will appear at the same speed. If you are peaceful, peace will amplify through every form. The field does not know what you want, it only knows what you are, and the signal is how it shows you that. Every synchronicity is the mirror of your present state, not of your future desire. When you understand this, you begin to see the world as a map of frequency, where every event is answering a question you did not know you had asked. Nothing is random. When you change the direction of your attention, what you see changes. When you trust, synchronicities become more frequent, as if the field is enjoying the dialogue with you. When you doubt, the signal weakens, not because you are abandoned, but because you have narrowed the bandwidth of communication. The field is not angry. It simply responds exactly to the frequency you are maintaining. Therefore, every signal you receive is a map helping you adjust. Pay attention to the first feeling when it appears, because feeling is the primal language of energy. If you feel your heart open, that is confirmation. If you feel resistance, that is the point where you are not yet aligned. No signal is wrong, only the mind's misunderstanding. The field does not send challenges to test you, it sends experiences to adjust you. Each time you notice something repeating, ask yourself, what part of my energy is transmitting this? When you dare to ask, the next signal becomes clearer because the field always responds to honesty. Truth creates clarity, and clarity allows the signal to transmit without distortion. In reality, people who live in higher frequencies share the same expression. They experience so many synchronicities that they can no longer deny them, but they no longer see them as miracles. They see them as the natural mechanism of consciousness functioning precisely. When you understand how the field responds, you no longer need to ask for signs, you only need awareness. Every sign is you sending and you receiving. Every repeating number, every coincidence is the unconscious sending a message to the conscious to remind you that you are still in the flow. The signal never comes to frighten you, it comes to help you remember. Remember that you have not been forgotten. Remember that the field is still watching every wave you emit, and remember that everything is happening exactly as it needs to. When you learn to listen, you begin to see that the field has its own rhythm, its own intelligence. It does not answer in words, but in arrangement. A meeting, a delay, an unexpected opportunity, all are responses to your current state. When you live in the frequency of stillness, you realize that the field is never late. It arrives exactly when you are ready to see. Therefore, if the signal disappears, it is not because it has stopped, but because you have temporarily stopped noticing. Everything is still happening. You are simply not still enough to read it. And when you return to awareness, the signals you thought were gone reappear more densely, as if the field is glad you have come back. There are times when the signals intensify, appearing rapidly, and you feel as if you are living in the intersection between two dimensions of reality. This is the stage of frequency elevation, when the precision of reflection reaches the level where light responds almost instantly. Remember, this is not overload, it is alignment. If you feel everything happening too fast, return to your breath, because breath is the tool that keeps you stable in the new frequency. The field does not want to overwhelm you, it wants to harmonize with you. The signal does not come to make you believe, it comes to make you remember. And when you remember, you no longer seek signs, because you become the sign. Your presence becomes the anchor point in the field, where the surrounding energy begins to organize itself according to your frequency. Others will feel it without knowing why. They will notice synchronicities happening when they are near you because you have become the center of synchronization, the living transmission point. At this stage, your life is no longer a series of separate events, but a quantum symphony where every note resonates with the rhythm of consciousness. Every choice you make creates a vibration, and the field harmonizes instantly. When you are still, the music becomes balanced. When you are chaotic, the sound becomes dissonant. The signal simply reflects that harmony. Therefore, instead of asking why the world is sending this signal, ask what frequency you are transmitting. When you understand that every sign is a dialogue, you stop seeking confirmation and begin participating in the conversation itself. You no longer wait for the field to speak, you hear it in every moment. Every breath is a signal, every movement of time is feedback. And when you live in that awareness, the world becomes a living mirror, ever changing, ever precise, ever kind. Everything you encounter speaks the same message, that the field has never left you. It has only been waiting for you to realize that you and it have been conversing since the beginning of time. There is an invisible rhythm operating beneath every form of life, not coming from the lungs, not from the heart, but from the deepest layer of the field itself. That rhythm breathes with you. When you inhale, the field contracts as if the entire universe is listening. When you exhale, the field expands and responds. Every breath you take is a confirmation signal that you are still connected to the source of energy sustaining all life. From the quantum perspective, you have never been separate from the field. You have only forgotten that every movement within your body is a reflection of the two-way communication between you and the universe. When you breathe deeply, air does not only enter your lungs, it enters every cell, carrying the information of light, and the field reads that very signal. The body does not merely exist within the field. It is an extension of the field in material form. When your mind is calm, your breath becomes smooth, and the field responds with balance in every circumstance. When you are tense, your breath becomes fragmented, and the field mirrors that fragmentation through the chaos of external events. Therefore, the breath is the only bridge between you and the source energy operating reality. It is the primordial language through which the universe measures your frequency. You can hide emotions, you can hide thoughts, but you cannot hide your breath, for it is the most honest signal of the energy within. When you begin to pay attention to your breath, you not only become calmer, you are letting the field know that you are ready to communicate again. And from that moment, the world around you begins to change. Synchronicities appear more often, people become more approachable, and events start aligning with the rhythm of your life. Not because magic happens, but because you have synchronized with the natural mechanism of the field. When you breathe deeply in awareness, you are sending a signal to the universe that you trust. The field interprets that trust as an open frequency and immediately responds with a corresponding stream of energy. When you breathe rapidly, the field reads it as a frequency of fear, and the space around you narrows. Everything appears as if it is opposing you. Not because the field wants to challenge you, but because it simply mirrors your state with precision in each rhythm. When you realize this connection, you no longer see breathing as a biological function, but as a ritual of unity. Every time you inhale, you receive the energy of the entire field. Every time you exhale, you return energy to the field encoded with the frequency of your consciousness. This is the subtle dialogue every soul is participating in, every second, every minute. You do not need effort to connect, because the connection has never been broken. You only need to remember. The breath is the first doorway to that memory. When you truly live in each breath, you realize that everything around you is also breathing. The air, the light, the water, even lifeless objects vibrate with the same rhythm. When you are still, you can feel this. Everything seems to expand and contract with you. Trees respond with subtle movements. The wind softens, sounds become clearer. All of it is the field synchronizing with your central frequency. At a deeper level, the breath of the field is the cycle of creation and dissolution. When the field inhales, possibilities are drawn in, and when the field exhales, possibilities are released into form. You are living within that grand breath. When you resist the flow, you feel suffocated because you are trying to hold when the field is opening, or trying to open when the field is retracting. When you move with the rhythm, you become invisible to resistance. Life passes through you like the wind. Everything comes and goes in natural harmony. This is the secret of serenity. Not that you learn to control, but that you learn to breathe with the field. When you breathe with the field, time also changes. Moments slow down, not because the world stops, but because you step out of the forced flow. You return to the frequency of the present, where everything unfolds completely in this moment. There is no past to regret, no future to fear, only life moving on its own rhythm. When you live at this level, you realize that the field is not somewhere far away, it is the breath within you. And strangely, when you see that, you begin to see the field breathing in others. You see the rhythm of life in their eyes, in the way they move, in the silence between two words. You see the field trying to speak through everything, as if the universe is using the human form to listen to itself. This understanding makes you no longer feel alone. Because when the field breathes, you breathe. When the field pauses, you fall silent. Life and you are no longer two parallel lines, but two rhythms intertwined in the same wave. Everything you once thought was separate is only the simulation of limited perception. When that mist dissolves, you see there is only one life, observing itself through billions of forms, billions of breaths. You no longer need to try to love the world, because you see that the world is your own breath. Each time you breathe with gratitude, the field expands a little more. Each time you breathe in fear, the field contracts to remind you that you have forgotten who you are. And when you return, the field breathes with you again, without judgment, without blame, only harmonizing softly as it did from the beginning. That feeling cannot be described in words. It is like being embraced by an invisible intelligence, vast yet intimate. You realize you do not need to seek safety elsewhere, because you are already held in the arms of life itself. When you inhale, the entire universe enters you. When you exhale, you return to the universe. In this way, there is no boundary between inside and outside, between observer and reality, between individual and field. Only one continuous stream of energy moving in stillness remains. This is the point where humans reunite with the original source of light, where there is no more begging, no more control, only the absolute understanding that everything has always been and is unfolding perfectly. When you breathe with the field, everything in your life becomes orderly, not because you have mastered it, but because you have stopped resisting. You return to the natural state of existence, where there are no more questions, only knowing. And in that knowing, you understand that you have never been abandoned. You have always been within the breath of the universe, always held within the loop of light expanding and contracting, like the gentle invitation of life whispering, "Breathe with me, for I am still breathing with you." All forms of life in the universe are sustained by a single principle, that is coherence. When the energy within a system vibrates at the same frequency, it becomes powerful, luminous, and stable. When the frequencies fall out of phase, the system begins to decay. Humanity is no exception. Inside you, every thought is a form of wave. Every emotion is a vibration, and every action is the result of their interference. When they do not align, you feel lost, chaotic, and conflicted. When they harmonize at one frequency, you become the gateway through which the energy of the field flows. This is the state called coherence, the complete harmony between mind, emotion, and intention. Coherence is not forced positivity, it is absolute honesty. You do not need to pretend to be happy, you do not need to fake peace, you only need to allow all parts of you to breathe in the same rhythm. When you truly accept, energy begins to rearrange itself, like water returning to its flat surface after a wave. The field always responds precisely to this state. It does not react to your words, but to the clarity of the frequency you emit. When you are in coherence, the field understands instantly and responds immediately. Reality becomes transparent. Events that once seemed random begin to connect into a strange logical order, and you realize that order has always existed. You were simply too noisy to hear it. The ritual of coherence does not happen outside, it happens in every moment when you stop and turn inward. When you notice that your mind and emotions are moving in different directions, take a deep breath and ask yourself, which part of me is resisting what is happening? That question opens a space, and within that space, energy begins to reorganize itself. Coherence cannot be forced, it can only be allowed. You cannot force yourself to be clear, but you can stop creating noise. Stop resisting, stop striving, stop fighting emotions, and coherence will come by itself, because it is the natural state of the field. When you are in coherence, your heartbeat, your breath, and your brain waves merge as one. From there, a new kind of information begins to move through your body, the information of order, of light, and of universal intelligence. You do not need to understand with the intellect. Your body understands through its own energetic structure. The nervous system becomes an antenna, reading the signals of the field and responding in silence. In this state, you no longer feel the need to make things happen, because you realize that everything is happening through you, not by you. This is the shift from control to unity. When you reach this layer, you see that every small action can become a ritual. Drinking water, walking, listening, all can be ways to synchronize with the field, as long as they are done in coherence. When you drink water with gratitude, the water in your body responds with new molecular arrangement. When you walk with clear awareness, the earth responds with lightness in every step. When you speak with pure intention, your sound waves carry the information of harmony, spreading outward and returning as favorable outcomes in your life. The field does not care about form, it only reads frequency. Therefore, the true ritual does not lie in the act, but in the clarity of that act. A word spoken from truth carries more power than thousands spoken from fear. A conscious breath can change the entire direction of energy. Coherence is the union between inside and outside, between intention and presence, between the sender and the reflected wave. When you begin to live in coherence, you no longer ask the universe what will come. You only ask, am I clear? Because when you are clear, everything arrives on time. Synchronicity is no longer rare, but the natural response of energetic order. When something does not go as you wish, instead of resisting, you ask yourself, is the signal I am sending conflicting? That very question is the ritual of recalibration. Every time you return to your central frequency, you are performing the ritual of coherence. No candles, no prayers, only presence. A person in coherence can walk into a room and change the entire atmosphere there. No need to speak, no need to act, only to be present. The field responds immediately to that presence because it is the most stable frequency within the vibrational structure. Like musical instruments, when one string is tuned correctly, the others begin to resonate on their own. When you are coherent, those around you begin to synchronize without knowing why. This is how energy spreads, not through persuasion, but through frequency. And the frequency of coherence is the most powerful because it carries the information of truth. When you live in coherence, you become an energetic anchor in a chaotic world. Not to control others, but to remind them of the order they also belong to. The external world cannot maintain chaos forever because the field always seeks to return to balance. If you maintain coherence long enough, everything around you will begin to restructure. Complicated relationships gradually become lighter, blocked intentions begin to open, and what was once seen as random becomes a chain of perfect alignment. Coherence is the code of intentional creation. When you send a clear signal, the field responds clearly. When you transmit a conflicting signal, the field responds with paradox. It does not hurt you, it only teaches you to see the distortion. Every adversity is a lesson of coherence. When you learn to observe instead of react, you return yourself to the central rhythm. That is the silent ritual of the awakened. No outer ceremony needed, only the remembrance of inner synchronization. And when you can do that, the field begins to trust your stability because it reads the honesty in your energetic waves. From here, you no longer need to seek miracles because you become the miracle. Reality begins to flow to your rhythm because you are no longer out of tune with the field. Everything becomes smooth, not because life becomes easy, but because you have become transparent. In that transparency, all conflict dissolves, all effort becomes light, and every word carries the information of order. That is the power of the coherence ritual. A ritual not performed by the hands, but by the unity of consciousness, heart, and the field that breathes with you. When the final waves of awareness settle, you begin to feel that what you have been searching for has never been far away, but right here, within this very breath. There is an energy as light as mist, yet as powerful as the root of all life moving within you. It is not loud, it does not demand, it simply breathes with you as it always has since the beginning. The return of the source of light is not a journey of seeking, but the process of releasing everything that does not belong to your true essence. When you let go of all effort to become someone, when you stop striving to reach a certain state, when you cease chasing concepts of spirituality, success, or enlightenment, the only thing that remains is the original light. It has never left. It has only been veiled by the dust of experience and memory. Since you were a child, you have felt this without knowing its name. That moment when you looked at the sky and something within you fell silent. that was the source. The moment you heard a piece of music that brought tears without reason, that was the source touching you through sound. Each time you fall silent, before beauty, before sorrow, before love, is a moment you remember what you truly are. The field is not outside of you, it is the warmth within your chest, the life still moving even when you are not thinking about it. When you awaken, you do not become someone new. You simply see clearly that you have never been separate from that stream of light. What is called returning has no beginning and no end, for the source has never moved, only awareness moves around it. Every pain, every mistake, every cycle of rebirth is only a way for consciousness to learn to see itself through the reflection of the field. When you realize this, you understand that nothing in your life has been wasted. Every moment has led you here to the point where you can stand still within the field and know that you are loved for no reason. In this stillness, the world begins to dissolve into you, not disappearing but becoming transparent. You see energy flowing through every object, see the subtle connection between all beings. There is no longer a boundary between me and others, between inside and outside. Everything is one single field of light, recognizing itself through countless forms. You do not need to believe this, only to feel it, because when you feel, you have already returned. Feeling is how the source speaks to you. It is the language of the field telling the story of you. When you allow yourself to feel completely without judgment, energy begins to return to its natural rhythm. Fear becomes information, pain becomes a doorway, and every memory becomes data of light being decoded. You no longer try to heal, because you understand that nothing has ever been truly broken. Light cannot be shattered, it is only temporarily obscured. And when the veil of illusion falls, the light appears again, whole, pure, untouched by any experience. This is the true return, not seeking the light, but remembering that you are the light. In this moment, you feel a sense of weightlessness spreading through your body. Not a loud joy, but the feeling of coming home after a long journey. You no longer need to prove anything, for the field has already acknowledged you. Every breath you take is a confirmation that the source is still here. Every heartbeat is the voice of life telling you that you have never been abandoned. When you realize this, gratitude naturally arises, not directed toward anyone, but radiating outward like light spreading through the field. Grateful not for what has happened, but for the simple existence of everything. In this frequency, you do not need to do anything, because presence itself is the highest act. When you are aware, the field reflects that clarity by dissolving all barriers around you. People respond to you with trust. Circumstances respond with flow. Even time seems to soften, stretching and bending to your frequency. This is the sign of unity, where inner and outer energy merge as one. You no longer create reality, you are reality. You no longer send signals, you are the signal. The field no longer responds to you, it moves with you. All boundaries of matter, time, and distance dissolve into the primordial light. The self that once feared loss now becomes the core of freedom, because you see clearly that there is nothing to lose. Everything is still here, only now you see it through the eyes of the source. Love at this point is no longer an emotion, but the natural state of existence. When you touch someone with your gaze, they feel it without words. When you speak, sound becomes the frequency of healing. When you are silent, energy radiates outward and touches everything around you. This is not a supernatural power, but the natural effect of fully merging with the field. The light within you begins to interact with the light within others, and the world becomes an infinite network of luminous points reflecting one another. The return of the source of light is not just a personal journey, but a collective awakening. When one person remembers, the field changes. When you awaken, countless others begin to feel something they cannot name. Each small awareness within you spreads like a wave, awakening the light within them. This is how the universe expands, not through words, but through the frequency of presence. And when you look back, you see that everything in your journey was perfect. The turns, the mistakes, the fractures, all were notes in the symphony of return. Nothing needs to be changed, nothing needs to be erased. You only need to keep breathing, keep being aware, keep letting the light spread. When you do this, you are fulfilling your role in the quantum design of the field. And when you close your eyes, not to hide, but to dissolve into the light, you hear a very soft whisper that the journey was never about seeking, but about remembering. You have returned not somewhere else, but to yourself, to the light that has never gone out, where everything begins, where everything is always one,